Okay, hi. We are going to do some lessons on barbecue. I'm gonna take, barbecue's a big topic. I'm going to take some and do some basic, simple barbecue sauces. Now, there's 3 types of barbecue sauce. There's a ketchup-based sauce, which is known as the Kansas City style. And then there's a mustard base, which is the Carolina. And then there is a mayonnaise base, which is Alabama or white barbecue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break each video up into a specific sauce so I can tell you what it's made for. We're going to make the sauce, and then I'm going to do a little recipe or talk about a recipe you could do. So the first one we're going to do is one that is probably most common, which is the ketchup-based one. Now, we're just doing sauces. We're not doing rubs. We're not doing bark. We're not doing any of that elaborate barbecue stuff because we're just learning basics. So, with a ketchup-based barbecue sauce, it can go on beef or pork is what it's good on. So, if I were to want to do pulled pork, I would get this. I'm just showing you so you know what I use to do pulled pork and how I do it. So I would let this thaw, and then I would put it in my crock pot and season it with salt and pepper. And the reason I only season it with salt and pepper is because you don't want the seasoning on the pork to clash with whatever barbecue sauce you use, because you season your barbecue sauce, and then if you have a lot of other seasonings on your pork, it's gonna come out all funky. So I just do salt and pepper. Sometimes I do some paprika and garlic powder, but usually it's just salt and pepper. And I just leave it in there. I don't add anything. Definitely do not add water. That pork shoulder is super fatty, and that fat is gonna cook down. Your meat is going to cook in that natural fat, and that natural fat is going to make it really tender and juicy. And I say give it about 4-5 hours, and then take a fork. If the pork flakes off, it's done. If not, if it's giving you some tug, it needs more time. Pulled pork just kind of falls apart. And what you do is you take it out of your crock pot, you let it rest for a little bit, about 10 minutes or so, and then you shred it, put it back in your crock pot, and add your sauce. And that's how I do it. Those pork roasts are huge. I got that one. It was kind of a smaller one. It was almost 10 pounds. And so it's really good for meal prep because you can make it and it freezes really well. I wouldn't freeze it with the barbecue sauce on it. I would just freeze the meat. You can put it in things like ramen. You can use it in stir fries. You can use it to make, obviously, pulled pork sandwiches. You can use it for quick tacos. So that shredded pork, because you haven't seasoned it at all, can be used in lots of ways. And you just throw it in a baggie, leave the baggie open until the steam's all gone, shut it up, and freeze it. So for this, we're going to pretend that we've got pulled pork. I actually got these thick cut pork chops to cook. So that's what I'm going to be doing, but normally I would do pulled pork. So first thing we're going to do is our ketchup. I just use whatever's cheapest because we're going to add a whole lot of stuff to it. But I do 24 ounces, which is 3 cups. And I do 24 ounces because my recipe is based off 3 cups of ketchup. So then I don't have to measure my ketchup at all. I can just dump the whole thing in. I don't have to worry about, you know, measuring in that hot mess. So you're gonna put it in your pan. Now, this is something that we're gonna have to cook down a little bit. We're gonna have sugars that need to caramelize and sugars that need to melt. We're also gonna have, it's gonna be kind of watery until we cook it down because we're adding some liquids to it. So that's why it's in this pan. The ketchup barbecue sauce, based barbecue sauce, and the mustard based barbecue sauce you cook down. So there's that. Got all of it out that I basically could. Okay. And now we're going to add some liquid. So I just use white vinegar. Some people use apple cider vinegar. It's up to you. I just like white vinegar because I use white vinegar a lot in all sorts of things. Then I don't have to have a whole bunch of different vinegars. The vinegar is what gives it that zing in your mouth, that zest that barbecue sauce is known for. So we're going to start off all right, I've got my measuring cup. We're going to do 3/4, oh, you can't see it, 3/4 cup white vinegar. Okay. And I'm not going to put that away because as it cooks down, and that's another thing about cooking. When you cook and things cook down, you can play with the flavor a little bit. So this is the basic sauce. And then as you cook it down, if you want more zing, you put more vinegar. If you want more heat, you put cayenne. Like, there's ways to do it. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we've got ketchup, 3/4 cup vinegar. We're going to do, this is just Worcestershire. We're going to do a 1/4 cup of Worcestershire. Okay. And then we are going to see how it's still pretty red. Barbecue sauce is kind of a brownish red. This molasses is what gives it the brown kind of color. So we're going to do start off with a 1/2 cup of molasses. Now this stuff is sticky and very thick. And try to get as much of it out as you can. And this gives it a sweetness. People use it sometimes, use honey instead sometimes, but I like, for my red barbecue sauce, I like molasses. So we've got this. We're going to give it a good stir because we're going to get it started to simmer. So as we add the other seasonings, those seasonings can cook down. You can see it's got that color already that barbecue sauce is known for, kind of that reddish brown. That's what we're going for color-wise, but we're definitely going to cook it a lot because you can see it's pretty watery. And this, you're tasting this a lot. So first thing I start off with is onion powder, 2 teaspoons, then paprika, teaspoon of paprika, chili powder, I'm going to do a teaspoon of that. We're going to do garlic powder. These are all powders because we want them to, you don't really want a chunky barbecue sauce. So you want everything powdered. Okay, and we're going to start with that. So I've got a measuring spoon. I've got my tasting spoon. So I'm going to put this on heat about medium. Medium for me is about 5. I'm going to whisk this all in. Okay, now I'm going to do light brown sugar, and I'm going to do about, let's see, a 1/4 cup. Now, and remember, this is all just to start your base. Once you get all this base going and it cooked down a little bit so you can taste the flavor, then you can add it different spices if you want it sweeter, if you want it more molassesy. That's when you start adding this. But this is just the basic before you kind of play around and make it your own. And that's the fun part about barbecue sauce, and it's the fun part about cooking. You do your basic recipe and then you play with it a little bit. And it's always tasting and always correcting. Okay, and then ground pepper. This is just fresh ground pepper, which makes it hard to kind of measure. But I'd say about 1/2 teaspoon. Fourth a teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon. Alrighty. I'm gonna give this a good stir. Now you notice I haven't put any salt in it, and I don't start off with salt because the Worcestershire, when it cooks down, can bring a lot of salt to that flavor. And once you put salt in, you can't take it back, as we've discussed. So I'm gonna taste it, make sure it's got enough zing, because you gotta remember, you're gonna be cooking off this liquid. And as it's cooking, you want those flavors to come out more. So if you don't taste a certain flavor, add more. So it still tastes like barbecue sauce to me. So I'm going to, I like mine to have a bit of a punch. So I'm going to add another cup of vinegar. Get all that molasses. Taste that now. And even though it looks brown, still taste it, because you need to be able to taste that it's not ketchup. If it tastes like ketchup, you need to be adding more spices. So I'm gonna add 2 more teaspoons of onion powder. Do another teaspoon of garlic. Going to do another teaspoon paprika. I'm gonna do 2 teaspoons of chili powder. And it might look like a lot, but to get rid of that ketchup flavor, you need those spices. Those ketchup is a strong flavor to transform, so don't be shocked when you are putting a lot of spice in this sucker. And if you're not sure, just do a little bit at a time. You don't have to do big teaspoons and tablespoons like I'm doing. If you're not sure how you like it or how you want it to taste, do it at your own speed, because this has got to cook down, and we're going to be playing around with it a lot. So, starting to feel some heat. Let's see. Okay. That does not taste like barbecue sauce. I mean, sorry, it does taste like barbecue sauce. It does not taste like ketchup. Got a little bit of a ketchup aftertaste. And because of that, I'm gonna do another 1/2 cup of molasses. And molasses really is important, especially for your ketchup-based barbecue sauce, because that does give you that barbecue sauce flavor. There's no other way I know how to replicate that. Okay, let's see. Okay. I'm gonna add another 1/2 cup of sugar. I like my barbecue sauce a little on the sweeter side. If you don't have to add more sugar. But I do. I have a thing for sweet barbecue. So I'm gonna add another 1/2 cup. You can see it's starting to bubble, which is what we want. Now, I'm gonna no longer taste like ketchup. I taste that kick from the vinegar. I've got it tasting like barbecue sauce. It's the right color that I'm wanting to cook down. Now, as it cooks down, it will get even darker. So, I'm gonna let this simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes so it thickens, and then I'll come back and remember, there's the molasses and the sugar in this, so don't walk away from this. It will burn. Okay, so you don't have to constantly be stirring it, but when it gets to this point, you see in the steam, you see if you let it be, it'll start to see the bubbles. Okay. You want to turn this down on low, just because we don't want that sugars that we've added to burn. So I'm going to let this simmer. I'll come back every 3 to 5 minutes, give it a good stir, and then when it's the right thickness, I will come back and show you. Okay. So as you can see, it's gotten darker. Sorry. I turned the heat up a little bit, so I don't know if you can tell by the movement, it is quite a bit thicker, but this is what we're gonna want. So when you stick your spoon in, see how it sticks to the spoon? It does not run, I mean it drips, and of course it drips, but because homemade barbecue sauce is pretty runny, but you want it to be able to stick to your meat. So you want it to stick to your spoon. If it runs off your spoon and doesn't leave a nice layer, see the layer on the spoon, then you need to cook it down more. You want it to be sticky. You want it to stick to things. So I'm gonna put this off to the side for just a minute. Now we're gonna talk about, really quick, some food safety. The big thing being, when you are cooking meats, chicken, pork, even beef, even though you can have it rare, it's just a good habit to always have. I always have a container that I call my glazing container, which is separate from the rest of the sauce, and I'll show you why in a minute. So I'm going to take my saucepan of sauce, and I'm going to dump it in another bowl. Usually I would dump this in a squeeze bottle and leave the lid off so it can cool, and then I have it in a squeeze bottle for whenever I need it. But right now, because that can get kind of messy, I'm just going to go ahead and dump it in this bowl. Now I'm going to get a ladle and ladle about 3 ladles into my glazing pan. Now, why do we have this? We have that so we don't cross-contaminate and make people sick. There's another pan. So, we're going to talk about cooking the pork. Now, I got these pork loin pork chops. They're real thick. They're super good. I like them thick because the thicker they are, the less likely they will dry out. And the less likely they dry out, the longer you can glaze them, which is what we want. So, just gonna open up the package, and all I'm gonna do is, because remember, we don't want the seasonings to be too much, is I'm gonna just salt and pepper each side. While that's going on, I'm gonna have my pan getting hot. So my pan is not on high, but it's on 7. And I'll show you why in just a second. So I'm gonna flip these over. Don't worry about touching the meat, because that's why we have soap. You can wash your hands. Once you get it in your pan, you can definitely wash your hands. Okay, I'm gonna let this sit for just a second. And we're going to talk about cooking this pork. So, we want this pan hot. And the reason we want it hot is because the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to see these big pieces of fat. We're going to stick our pork chop square on that fat and render that fat down first. It just, nobody wants a big mouthful of just like chewy, non-rendered fat. So I have found the easiest way to make sure you don't have that is if you just cook it first on the pan. And so I get my pan pretty hot, and then I will stick that on in just a moment. The other thing you're going to need is this. This is it's a heat-resistant brush to put the sauce on your meat. Now, the reason we have this separate from our others is we're going to brush our raw pork or our raw chicken or whatever meat we have, okay? And then we're going to dip it back in to do it several times because we want a glaze, a coating on it. And the only way to do that is to build it up, caramelize it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But that way, all the raw pork germs or whatever meat you're cooking stays in your glaze pan, and it does not contaminate your entire bunch of sauce you just made. So you know that this is possibly could have some germs in it, but that's okay because once we're done glazing it, we're going to stick it in the oven, and the oven is going to be hot enough to kill all the bacteria, everything that would make you sick out of that. So that's why I do that. And then when you pull it out, if people want more sauce, they don't have to worry, and you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, are they going to get sick because that's what I used to put on my meat. And if you get in the habit of doing that, then you don't ever have to worry about accidentally cross-contaminating your sauces you make from scratch and making people sick by accident, because that, I'm sure you'd feel awful. So it's pretty darn hot. So I'm going to take this, see this big fat? I'm going to put it right there. Hear it sizzle. Do the other one. And I'm just leaning up against the side just so they don't fall over. That's the only reason. Okay, I'm going to check it. See, it's got that nice brown. We're going to keep it going for a little bit longer. You can see it's getting smaller. And you can see, I move around the pan a little bit. See the fat coating the pan? That will also help your meat from sticking, which then you don't have to add any extra fat or grease to your pan. So there's that. I'm going to hold that for a little bit. There's a little bit of fat there. While this is doing that, I'm going to start turning it down. Okay, so we got some good brown. Set it there. Check this one. Get this piece of fat. It's okay if it looks, see it looks a little black right there. That's okay. It's not burnt. Trust me. It is not burnt. So then you see, instead of having a big old hunk of fat, you just have that thin rim that will keep your pork nice and moist. And that crispness of the fat that you did, now that is yummy. All right, so we've got our heat down so it doesn't burn. It's gonna slather on a good old bunch. It doesn't have to be pretty. You can see the fat from the pork is gonna be, you can see it sizzling, and we're gonna kind of spoon it on. Get it on the sides. Okay, now we don't have to worry about this because we're cooking it. So we can set it back in our pan. We're gonna let it sit for a few minutes. When you see things starting to get black, you can lift it up, check your pork, see the pork's not black. We're still doing good. Good caramelization on our pork, which is good. So that looks good. I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna flip it. And I'm going to glaze. Now this is a really thick cut of pork. So don't think you are going to dry out your pork or you're going to overcook your pork, because it's too thick. You got to finish it in the oven for it to cook all the way through. So don't stress about that. Now if they were thin, you might have a little problem. That's why I do thick pork, because then you can do all this yummy stuff and you don't have to worry about having a dry pork chop. Nobody likes a dry pork chop. You can see the black around there. That's just the fat burning. That's not a big deal. It's not touching our pork. And we're just going to flip them in place, so it's not going to matter. You might also see, see the black of the barbecue sauce. That's okay, because that's just caramelizing. So, flip. Flip. You can see your pork is not burnt. We're gonna glaze. Oh, one thing I did forget to say, while you're doing this, your oven should be preheating. I got mine at 350. Don't worry about, because we're putting a lot of barbecue sauce on this, don't stress about that burning stuff. That'll just rinse off. It's just the sugar caramelizing and the fat. It's not gonna do anything to our pork. Gonna wait a few more minutes. Now flip it again. Okay. Now I have this cooking in a pan that can go directly in my oven. If you don't, just know you're going to have to transfer your pork to an oven-safe pan to finish it off. So I'm going to put a nice big old blobbing scoop. So when I put it in the oven, that barbecue sauce caramelizes. Now, everyone worries about smoke and all that. Listen, it's going to smoke. It's going to look like it's burning simply because we've got fat and we've got sugars from the barbecue sauce. You can see it cooking. You can see it blackening, but it's not affecting the pork. You can see the pork is not black. Okay? This sauce is staying on top. Okay? And when we put it in the oven, that sauce is going to kind of crust over and caramelize. So even if this stuff around it blackens, it's not going to affect the taste of your pork. So don't stress about it. All this stuff is sugar and fat, and wash out with hot water and some good elbow grease. So I am going to go ahead, stick this in the oven, and I'm going to stop this video, start a new one for the next barbecue sauce, which is our Carolina barbecue sauce. And by the end of the Carolina barbecue sauce, this pork should be done. I can take it out and show you. So if you want to see how it looks done, go to the Carolina barbecue sauce one and go to the end. So, all right, see you in a bit.